Welcome to the Not Pod. First episode, pilot of the Not Pod, I think we'll say. And first guest today, George Bettany, co-founder of Sanctus, a business that we started together, and now founder of Mara Run Club in Staffordshire, HQ in Lichfield, and also Run Club in Stone. And some listeners, or some people listening, might know George from his TED Talk last year at Staffordshire University. Home is just a breath away. So welcome, mate.
Nice. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And we are hosting the Not Pod at Dissident Studios. Dissident are our podcast partner for the Not Pod. They're a social first marketing, photography and video creation creative agency. Basically, they make really cool stuff that resonates, and they've worked with loads of cool brands, some based in Staffordshire, some global. So check them out. And this studio is epic, isn't it?
It's so good.
I can't believe we're in Stone.
I can't believe this is a 5 minutes walk from your house. It's so good.
I know. I also can't really believe that me and you are in a really cool creative studio creating what I hope is going to be really good listen for people, and we're doing it in Staffordshire.
Yeah. And with Keelan behind the scenes as well.
And we've got Keelan from Hensford behind the scenes. So this just feels surreal. I don't think I'd have ever thought we'd be doing this.
No. Well, we met at uni, Sheffield, and we connected because we were both from Staffordshire. So my dad went to your school. So that's the first thing that we connected on was like, oh, you're from Stoke. My dad's from Stoke. So back then, we wouldn't have thought we'd be here now. So
I feel like you recognise my accent or something.
I can't remember. I think it was more your humour. I think, at uni, I think the Midlands, when you go to uni, you're either southern, so someone will say, are you from down south, or you're from up north? No one says you're from the Midlands. And it's just us. We're the only two from the Midlands in my head. So I think our humour was the same. And maybe that's a Staffordshire thing. Definitely a Stoke thing. Yeah,
there's a sarcasm, I think, and like a wit and something quick. I just remember meeting, and I don't know how we got onto it, but I remember you mentioning Lichfield. Because I'll be honest, growing up, I didn't even know Lichfield was in Staffordshire. I actually had no idea. I was just saying to Keelan, I think growing up in and around Stoke, you sort of look north. You look to like the Peak District or Manchester. You don't really look down for some. I didn't even know Cannock Chase existed. I'm not even joking. I think we went to some school trip in Shugborough or something when we were young.
Yeah, we did the same.
Yeah, I didn't really know, because I very much resonated. So I'm from Stoke, even though actually, technically, like county lines, I would have technically grown up in Staffordshire. So I remember you talking about Stafford Rangers. Playing for Stafford Rangers, because I think I knew a couple of people that played there. Yeah, and then obviously your dad going to the same school as me, which was that was the finishing touch. When you were growing up, was it Lichfield or Staffordshire? Did you make that connection?
The only connection I had was playing football for Staffordshire. So playing for county. Do you remember the thing of playing for county? That was the thing, wasn't it? But other than that, Lichfield. And do you know what I didn't like growing up in Lichfield?
Well, no, that was the first place I wanted to start, because I can remember when we met, I feel like we both had, we definitely didn't have a negative upbringing, I think, but I think we both had this almost, I don't know, resentment somehow, or angst to where we'd grown up. Because I can remember you saying, I actually really remember you saying you didn't really like Lichfield.
No, I tried to distance myself from it, I think. I just never felt like I could be myself. I just felt like it's a kind of place growing up as, maybe it was more my insecurity and my own judgment of myself, but I kind of just felt like everyone had a bit of ego, and at school people would show off, and I just didn't feel like I could be myself. I felt like an in-betweener, and so I knew a lot of people, but never felt like I had a good friendship group. And I think even being entrepreneurial and being creative, I just didn't think like the room we're in now and the people, meeting Keelan behind the camera and the people here, they're creative. You can feel it as soon as you walk in. I never had that. So for a few reasons, I just didn't feel like I was at home. That's literally what my TED Talk was all about. It was kind of like not feeling at home, feeling like I had to go away to find home. So it's a bit of probably, I think it was more me than the area, and I couldn't find other people like me. So it took time to find them. And coming back now, since I've been back, I feel like I met loads of creative people.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's more me than the area, to be honest.
Yeah, because growing up was football for you, wasn't it? That was like the big thing. And then did that put you in a certain circle? And is that why maybe you didn't explore the more creative entrepreneurial side, or did you feel like you couldn't explore that creative entrepreneurial side?
I don't know, because I used to think that being entrepreneurial, I had to go somewhere else to pursue that. I just felt like it didn't exist here. However, my family are from Roaster. So my granddad worked at JCB. He was one of the first employees at JCB. And
what do you mean, Staffordshire's biggest success story ever?
One of the world's biggest companies,
Yeah.
multi-billion dollar company that was built on the hill up the road from my grandma and granddad's, and they both worked there. And even going to their house, I never saw that big brand on the hill.
You didn't make that connection.
I never thought someone from Roaster has built this absolutely global brand.
Do you think that's because we don't celebrate that sort of stuff in the same way? Like it's almost not.
Well, my granddad never talked about it. I'm like, why didn't my granddad talk to me about that? We never talked about that sort of thing. We did. Yeah, we talked about football. We talked about Derby, but we never talked about that. So, yeah, I just felt like I couldn't find other people like me. School, in the change rooms at Derby playing football. So I felt like I had to go somewhere else to kind of find it and then connect. To be fair, it worked because connecting with you at uni, you were the first person that saw some of the things that I was doing back then. And rather than judge me for it, you said, that's cool. Like, what are you doing?
Well, you were the first. Well, I think you were like the second properly entrepreneurial person I'd met. I remember there was a lad at school that sold sweets in the playground. Sam the Sweet Man.
Great.
Mate, he was making a fortune. I'm telling
brand.
you, he was making a fortune. The funny thing about that is the next day I was like, Mom, I need to get into this. And I bought a load of marshmallows. And like, I think I did it the next day and made like a 5, but I thought, this is just boring. Like, I don't fancy this. Get back to playing football on the yard or something.
I do like that brand though, Sam the Sweet Man.
Sam the Sweet Man, he's got legs. I'd love to know what he's doing now, actually. But yeah, you were the first properly entrepreneurial person I met. Like you were a bit of a Del boy, like into different stuff, like trying to sell some things, make some money, make some stuff happen. And I just thought that was cool. I just thought that was exciting. I'd never really met that. We didn't have that. Like I feel like growing up, the school I went to, Paisley, was quite academic. So they set you up straight away. They split you into A and B bands. So straight away, it's kind of like, if you're smart, that's good. And I was fairly academic and I was good at school. So, and then there was sport as well. So there wasn't much, I don't know, I didn't feel like creative stuff, whether that be art or music and entrepreneurship, which I class in the same category, was championed at all really. And like, you know, my family, dad's a teacher, mum's a nurse, like all that, got that history in the pottery, like going back, you've got that history in the potteries and a sort of probably a working class history. So, and then in Stoke, I think you just had like John Caldwell and Robbie Williams, and honestly, that was kind of it. So I didn't even know you could start, but I honestly don't even think I knew you could like start businesses. It just wasn't really a thing. And I feel like for me, I loved my life, you know, with my mates. I really felt like I was part of a pack, and, you know, we'd go to the pub on the Friday and then out in Newcastle, and then Saturday we'd go up and like, I loved it. We had that like pack. It was great. And you obviously saw that when we became mates and you hung around with my mates. We had such a fun time basically. But all I knew is that I had to leave. That's all, just in my whole being, especially taking a gap year before uni, working full time at KFC, just being like, I've got to leave. I didn't know what I wanted, but I suppose I saw nothing I wanted here, which is sad to say really, but I don't think I saw anything I wanted at all. I don't think I saw a person that I wanted to be like. I don't think I even saw a house that I wanted to live in. And I don't think I saw a job that I wanted to have. Yeah. And it was just like, I need to go. Yeah. I don't know where to, but I need to go, which sounds really similar.
Yeah. I question whether you need to do that to have perspective, because now coming back to Lichfield, I'm so grateful. It's such a nice place. But growing up, it was labelled boring, older. You know, if you stay there, you're stuck. I just think maybe that's an age. I honestly think part of it is just perception and growing up. I think a lot of people listening to this will have had the same thing where you've got to go away to have perspective on family, friendship like you've just described. And yeah, I love being here now, but I would never, when we first met, would never have thought to be back here. No way.
Well, tell me about the sort of cities you've been to since then, because the punchline is you've returned and you're back in Lichfield, which we'll get into. Yeah. So everyone knows that because we're here. But just, I don't know, just like, what was your experience of those other cities?
Well, I just tried to find people like us every place I went. So went to Sheffield for uni.
Yeah.
And even that, I didn't want to go. I remember deferring my place. I was like, oh, I just didn't know, you're young, aren't you? So ended up going to Sheffield, met you. Then that kind of turned into we started a business together and dropped out of uni. So then from Sheffield, moved to Newcastle. And in Newcastle, we were immediately put into like an entrepreneurial ecosystem and community. So I met loads of other creatives and entrepreneurs from that. So again, felt like a fit in, loved it in Newcastle and loved it in Sheffield. Then we were sort of drawn to London because again, I think by being in that scene, we were introduced to more people. A lot of them were based in London, especially in like the Shoreditch area. A lot of tech, creative entrepreneurs there. So we moved to London. You kind of led me through. You led me through a lot of that.
London, didn't we? That's how it felt. I don't think at that point, sort of 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, I just didn't feel like if you wanted to start a company in this country, you could be anywhere else, which I think is ridiculous now, actually. But that's how I felt. It's like we have to go.
Yeah, true. And I think you got to experience it to meet, we were so young and learning, and we just wanted to learn from the best and meet the best. And naturally, I don't think that all the best are in London, but there's a lot more people in London.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great people in London. Doesn't mean to say there's not a lot of great people here, but there's just more, just based on numbers.
There are, yeah.
So London took us there. Then I've kind of took some time out and travelled and went to different places. And then outside of the UK, then when I came back, lived in Manchester. So I had a year in Manchester, again, in like the entrepreneurial scene there. And then, I've forgotten now. Then London.
Back to London. Yeah.
And then when lockdown happened, I came back during lockdown. It kind of initially started as when I moved back to London and we were running Sanctus, our previous company there, I just thought I'd be in London for the next 20 years. And at some point I'll get out.
Yeah.
No, I don't think any of us saw this hybrid remote working possibility where there's the opportunity to be able to work from your laptop from anywhere really, and then maybe have the, going into the office a day or two a week. I was 5 days a week, 6 days a week in the office, living in London, working in London. So COVID gave me the opportunity to just step out for like a moment. And I remember I thought it was going to be 2 weeks of COVID and then I'd be back down. It's 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I was living in her flat. I thought I brought a bag for a couple of weeks and it ended up being a year.
Yeah.
And by the end of that year, the world was different. And I think so many people listening to this probably had a similar experience where their living or working situations changed dramatically in the last couple of years. And I'm probably one of them where I'm now able to live here and work from here, and I've been able to build and create from here. So yeah, it's
changed everything, hasn't it? I mean, I think living in London for me, I didn't really think about my life. To be honest, I just thought about my work.
That's all we talked about.
Yeah, we were building Sanctus, and that was absolutely at the centre of my world. And obviously, I'd met Sarah at the same time, so she was a big part of my life. But I don't think she'd mind me saying that, because she'd probably agree that really everything in my life and her life, to be fair, and our life was just revolved around work. Even where we lived, it's like, oh, you know what? We'll live in Stockwell because that's the right place on the Northern Line for you to be able to go east and me to be able to go west.
Your office.
To get to the office, to get to work. So everything just revolved around work. And then COVID just changed that because suddenly work was then sitting on my laptop in a 1-bedroom flat that I didn't like that much. And I was like, is this it? Like, is this actually what my life is reduced to? And I feel like that just changed everything because I did exactly the same thing. I mean, we were like 18 months into COVID and just finding it hard living and working in the 1-bedroom flat we had, which was in a lovely area. But we served notice on our flat. It was getting all condensation in the walls and like the landlord was in Antigua and I was fuming about that. I was like, why have you got 6 properties and and you're in Antigua and I'm like paying you 1,700 quid a month in rent. So I was disillusioned basically. And then, we were supposed to move in with Sarah's parents for like 2 weeks and then it just We just never went back. Just did exactly the same, because it just, I suppose, like you said, it just became possible, didn't it?
It was more like an opportunity. It was like a window that I thought was temporary. So I thought, I'll take that opportunity to spend a bit more time with Han. Because I was traveling up to Birmingham to the Midlands. She was traveling to London to see me. So it's like an opportunity. It's like a window that I thought was temporary, and it's just become permanent. So
yeah. I think the other thing that did happen at the same time, which is hard to pull out, is obviously we're both of a certain age as well.
I was just going to say, do you not think this is just your 20s? You spend a lot of time like trying to figure out, you know, who you are, but also your work, your career is such a big thing. Like you leave school or go to uni, it's like, what do I do? Who am I? So I do think you're trying to search for that.
Yeah.
And then as you get, you know, by the end of our 20s, we had our friendship group, we had Sarah and Han. So you got your partners, you know. I don't know. I feel like it's an age thing as well.
There's that as well.
It's not that unique.
No, there's definitely that as well. I suppose the thing that I'm curious about for now I'm back here and I see younger people here of like, can you do that search here?
Well, back to the remote working thing, there's a lot of people in Lichfield that I've got to know through running and through the run clubs and stuff that are younger than me. And when I ask when they join, how you doing? They're like, I've just moved to Lichfield, or I've just moved close to Lichfield. And my second question is, cool, you know, what brought you here? It's usually work, and Lichfield is a beautiful place to live, and I'm now able to live here because I can get the train to London or train to Birmingham or even train to Manchester. So genuinely the transport, I know it's mental.
No, it's not, mate.
But like the transport
mate, we're well placed
in Lichfield.
Yeah, we're a well placed county.
So everyone's like, I can easily get to Birmingham, easily get to London, and for my other 2 or 3 days, I'm working from home.
It's 1 hour 17 to London from Stafford.
It's big,
and it'll be less than that from Lich.
It's big, yeah, it's big.
It's massive.
Whereas growing up, none of us talked about that.
No, we need to celebrate the well placed transport links. So obviously, it'd be great if they were more consistent or whatever. But yeah, Stoke, 40 minutes to Manchester, 40 minutes to Birmingham. You know, 1 hour 24 on the Avanti when it shows up on time and it works, down to London like that. That's banging.
It's so true.
That is actually banging.
We are getting old. They listen to us, but it's true. It's true.
Mate, I'm passionate. I'm not old. I feel I'm passionate. Keelan's laughing. Keelan, you're 21, mate. I don't know. We'll bring you in a second, but I'm proud of that. I think that's something to celebrate because that means, you know, you can, in theory, stay and still consume or create or connect with people. That doesn't mean I'm not on this bandwagon of like no one must ever leave. I just do feel it saddens me that this area, Staffordshire and Stoke in particular, but the surrounding areas that are in Staffordshire, has got a talent retention problem. It's just fact. Like that's well known. It's well spoken about. Like people are leaving. If I think about the people in my year at school who were like really smart, if I like think back who was in the top sets and stuff, and who's living in the area now that I know of, it's not many of them. They've gone. They've gone because they've got jobs or opportunities elsewhere, and that just it just hurts. I just feel sad about that. Like for this region, for the young people in this region now, and who they're gonna be inspired by. And it's not that will never be the case. It's just I would love people to have an option because like what we both kind of agreed is that we both felt we didn't have an option. Whether that's true or not, we felt like we didn't. And I would like to change that really.
Yeah. I think the fact that we're here and although you say people have left, I do feel like I'm seeing more people.
100% bumped into someone yesterday in Bear that Sarah knows from school who's like, he's moved back, he's commuting down to London, works in finance. I think there's a sort of a bit of a like moved back to Staffordshire support club that's happening where everyone's like, it's a big transition, isn't it? Where'd you get your coffee from? Where'd you get your coffee from? Yeah. There's no sushi. Like as if it's the biggest thing in the world. How did you find that transition? Like moving back to Lichfield, the place you never thought you'd be.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Like, did you just find it easy or?
No. What I found was Han was so grounded in like she knew and knows who she is. So she's never strayed too far because she knows her family makes her happy. Being close to here makes her happy. and she knows herself so well. So like that grounding energy, I was with Han when I was 16, 17. I went on this stupid entrepreneurial journey trying to find myself, and I've ended up coming back, and we're now married.
Yeah.
And I had to do all that when actually
you could have just stuck around.
Yeah, the things that make me happy are Han, my family, being outdoors, being active. It's all here. All the answers are here. So, however, because I don't know, like coming back here, when I first moved back, I literally knew in Lichfield my mum and dad and Han's mum and her family. And that scared me because I felt like I was starting again. And I didn't want it to be the Lichfield that it was when I was 16. I was scared of being like an in-betweener again and feeling how I felt. I wanted it to be a new Lichfield in Staffordshire. So I had to build again. So for the first couple of months, I just remember feeling anxious. And it's the only word I've got for it, just anxious. Almost like I've done the wrong thing. And oh my God, I've got a house that's a bit old and a bit shit. And I only know my mum and dad. Like, what am I doing? Yeah, so that was definitely, it took time to meet people and took time to like start again and build friendships and even work opportunities like Mara and Staff's uni that we've been working with. Even being here, like it takes time to meet people and get to know people. So,
were you intentional about all that? Like, because it sounds like there's a few big pillars you're having to start again. The one that you know is strong is your family. They've not gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So you've moved back and you know you've got that. But then it sounds like actually everything else, really. Like your house, you've bought a house, which is great. Probably something that you might not have done in London or elsewhere. Yeah, then work and kind of mates or a social circle. That sounds like they were totally up for grabs, basically.
Well, to be fair, work didn't change. The one thing that helped me was I realised during lockdown that my passion was being active and especially running. It kind of came back. Like it's kind of like I grew up being like an athlete and then it went away. I kind of ran away from it. And then during lockdown, that, you know, I got back with Han, my childhood, whatever you want to call it. And then I found running again. So it's kind of like reconnecting with who I really am. That's what happened. So through running, I then met other people. When I moved back, I was just running on my own up and down the canal. And then somebody that I knew, Kane, I'll shout him out if he's listening.
Yeah.
He knew me when I was younger and he saw me running on Strava and said, you should run with me and Brian, my mate. So that was my first, out of nowhere, little link. I remember being really nervous. It was like going on a date, like meeting these lads that I haven't seen in 20 years. Like dating
friends almost.
And then another mate that I played for Stafford Rangers with, Jay, saw me on Strava. So I guess anyone listening, that worked for me was doing something I enjoyed. And that was kind of like my, what's the word, where it kind of helped ground me. When I felt anxious, doing the thing that made me feel good helped grounded me. So like running was that thing. And then others saw that and kind of connected around that. And then I feel like all my friends now have come through running. It's kind of really helped.
And I feel like from what I've seen, I just feel like I remember in London, like you were still in London, like you still cared about your fitness. Like, you know, you'd always go to the gym. You would try and run. I remember like you'd signed up to the London Marathon and like it was there. It was definitely in there. We'd
go to the gym. We'd play football.
We played a little bit of football together. I mean, it was all a bit, it wasn't quite right, but we were trying our best. I mean, I mainly just was there for the sauna really, but, and then I wonder if like you've come back also, mate, to an area where running's sick around here. It's nice to go running here. Like running isn't that nice in London. Yeah. Well, it can be, but it's harder. I find it harder anyway. So I wonder if also, one, you had to, because in a way you had to do something that you loved and hope that would just lead to making you connections and settling you here. And also it is a nicer environment to do it.
You just reminded me, during lockdown, I was so used to the London culture of going for a drink, because in London you work really hard and then you don't want to go back to your flat because it's so shit, so you go out.
So 6 pints at the Allen Pussycat
on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday. It's almost every night. That's the London culture. So I remember coming back and being in Han's flat and on a Wednesday being like, Han, let's go for a drink. And she'd be like, what? She's like, what you want about? It's Wednesday. I was like, well, what do we do? And she was like, we just sit in. And I couldn't get my head around it. So actually, naturally, especially during lockdown, I kept trying to drink because that's what I did. So, but I would drink indoors, like just me.
Yeah.
Han doesn't drink.
Yeah.
So I would just be drinking.
Yeah.
And like halfway through
And it
lockdown.
suddenly doesn't feel quite
Halfway
right
through
then,
lockdown, I was like, it scared me for the first time because I felt reliant on it because I didn't have any other outlet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of...
We did need a sedative back in those days though, mate. It was tough.
To a degree, it was good. And then there was a certain point where I was like, I'm looking forward to a drink on a Tuesday afternoon. This isn't right. And that's where running sort of... I was like, I actually have to do something else here. And then I forced myself to go for a run, even though honestly, I couldn't run very far. It was like literally down this canal and I'd have to walk back. But when I got back, the endorphins that it released, I didn't need the drink. It literally, I was like, I don't need a drink. I don't need a high because I've just got the high from something else. So I just kind of was forcing it at first. And then the more I did it, the more it felt good. And then like you said, I think the kind of, I don't know, the realization that this feels better than it did in London, I think came later. I was almost not even aware of my surroundings until a little bit later on. But yeah, and now I'm a few years into that and really I'm appreciative of being able to run outdoors, down a canal, in nature. You know, Staffordshire's phenomenal for, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, tell us more about that running journey because that's been a huge thing for you getting set up here. Like, so it started COVID of basically I need a hit of dopamine and endorphins. I need something else to do. And then you're now sitting here wearing a Mara Run Club top and, you know, you've just ran Manchester Marathon in an amazing time and you're a runner, right? And you're a run coach and you run a really dynamic, well, I would say successful run club. So just tell us about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought I'd be doing this. I think.
So it wasn't on the cards, was it?
No, none of it's been planned out. It's just following, even moving back, the risk of moving back to, it just doesn't make any sense. And being back with Han doesn't make any sense.
Back is such a funny word, is it? Sorry to jump in,
It's
but even
true.
back, moving back,
yeah.
I feel like for me, it's been this massive thing of like I felt like leaving London to return home to where I grew up is a backward step. Even how we say it.
True.
I moved back. I'm not calling you out.
Yeah.
Everyone says it. We all say it. And for me, it's kind of felt like at times like I failed.
Well, moving back can be perceived as that. I think others perceive it as that. Like you've gone somewhere and tried and come back. There's definitely an element.
Like you didn't make it. Like you didn't make it in London.
Yeah.
Oh, you couldn't afford to buy down there. You couldn't quite make your life work down there. As if, I don't know who's saying this. These are just fictitious voices in my head, but it's as if moving back is some sort of failure and it's not.
No, I chose. I think I was avoiding choosing because I felt like I was scared of it. I was like, I just know my mum and dad, but my heart was taking me there and I couldn't hold that in anymore. Like Sanctus is a coaching business, the business that we ran before where you do one-to-one coaching sessions. Like if you've never tried something like that, you know, therapy or something like that, where you've got a confidential space, I would have these one-to-one sessions in London, honestly, every session. She'd ask me like, what makes you feel good? I'd say the same things, like my family. Han would come up, running, being outdoors, being active. And it was just like, it was staring me in the face.
Yeah.
I was just avoiding it.
Yeah.
So when I did go back, although it was scary, I feel like even with the running, it was like stepping into it. And now 3 years on or whatever it's been, my life feels like really clear. It didn't feel clear back then. It was more just trusting my gut, stepping into it, following it, and just being like, I need to keep running, so I'll keep running. I need to see Han, so I'll see Han. I need to see my mum and dad more, go and see them more, regardless of what that means. And now I'm trying to do more of that. So like, I'm really drawn to bringing Mara and this philosophy of running to more people. And I'm not trying to think about it too much. I'm just going with where my energy is.
Yeah. So the running journey started, like you said, lockdown, and then you started running in a particular way, basically, and then you started running with others. Yeah.
Mara is a run club and a brand. And I think we have a unique philosophy towards running, which is combining mindfulness and presence with running. Like we believe that if you run in that way, you'll run further, you'll run faster, and you'll enjoy it way more. You feel far more fulfilled if you run in the Mara way. And we've got hundreds of people now as part of our run clubs running in this way. I'm coaching people to run in that way. I've been practicing running in this way, and I'm running faster than I've ever run before. And yeah, you know, on a lot of my sort of when I was younger and I'd run, I hated it. I would spend all of my time on a run in my head, judging myself like I should be faster than this. I used to be able to be fitter. I used to be fitter. I used to be able to run faster. When I played football, I'd spend every game in my head, judging myself, thinking, oh, you know, that pass was bad. I should have done that. I wish I would have done. I wasn't present on any run, in any football match. And as a result, I didn't perform my best. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't look back on many football matches or any runs and think that was enjoyable. So during lockdown, I applied everything I'd learned through my mental health journey, well-being journey with Sanctus, applied all of that and learned. I read a brilliant book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is all about presence. I read a book called Mindful Ultra Running. And in this book, the guy basically says, if you think too much about a run when you're trying to complete an ultra long run, it will crush you. There's no way. You have to stay in the moment, and that's where you feel lightest. So during lockdown, not only did I get out and run and not drink, I also got out and ran in a completely new way. I'd never ran in this way. And I started to become aware of how much I was thinking on every single run. It was like draining. The more I raised my awareness to my mind, I was like, my God, I'm thinking about.
And that's what's tiring you out, isn't it? As someone that's also felt that since you've brought my attention to this way of being, essentially, but way of running. Yeah, it is like with that level of thought, you're probably actually expending energy. Well, you are expending energy.
It's weighing you down. It's on a run. Those thoughts are weighing you down. They're deconstructive. It's comparison and it's judgment. And you're constantly judging yourself about, and also it's fear. It's fear of, I might have to walk. I might not be able to run today. I might have to stop. It's fear of that. So once you let go of what might happen in the future, once you let go of maybe how fit you used to be, and you really just settle into like your breath, your breathing on a run, your stride, and the next step, what's around you, bring yourself into the present, that is the lightest place you can be. And as a result, that's where all your true performance lies. And it's just practice. So I practiced that way of running during lockdown, ran my first marathon. And I'd always been told a marathon is, I heard people talk about these marathons like, you'll never want to do it again. Get it done. And it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And oh God, it's brutal. Suffering. I ran it. And honestly, I ran in that way. Every training run I ran, I felt light. And on the day I completed it, felt light. And I was emotional. I was like, and it gives me goosebumps now, the feeling I had. I was like, why has no one taught me to run in this way? I wish I'd had this when I was playing football.
Well, it's deep because it's like, why has no one taught me to live my life like this? Why has no one taught me that I can let go of the thoughts and feelings or outcome or the future thoughts that I have, and I can just be present and I can enjoy the run or my life. What I find really cool is obviously having sort of taken a lot of inspiration from the philosophy that you've created and applied it to running myself. Like I would have never, like I can run a comfortable half marathon now, not quickly, but I can run a half marathon. I would never have ever been able to do that before or thought that I'd be able to do that. But what has really surprised me about Mara, which for me has kind of become, at first it was an added bonus, and if I'm honest now, it's almost become the primary thing that I think is amazing, is the community. I'm like, that's really surprised me because you've created this amazing approach, but it's brought such cool, lovely people together. And, obviously your run club in Lichfield is popping. It's big. Yeah. I mean, 50, 60 people every Wednesday coming to run together or more. Yeah. Very well-established run club in Lichfield. And obviously we'll talk more about it later, but plans to do more of that this way. And we've got we've kind of piloted that and started that in Stone. And for me, having a Mara run club in Stone, it's created community, it's created connections. And it's sort of then like this whole thing's happening where people are drinking less and running is almost seeming to be replacing that. I just find that, yes, the philosophy is amazing. And there seems to be loads of other stuff that's coming with it and that's kind of happening in the world. Yeah. Because running is kicking off.
100%. But if you take the themes of what we've been talking about, kind of people not wanting to be in the pub in London, People wanted to be more outdoors. People wanted to be more at home, like closer to home where they've grown up. I think we're not unique. Other people want that. So I've created this place where you can come and you won't be judged for your ability, but equally, like, that's what we value. People feel safe there, and that's what they're looking for. So I think the Run Club is the modern pub. It's the modern, you see your friends on a Friday night for a beer. This group of people are now seeing each other on a Wednesday night for a run. And when you make that accessible and inclusive and everyone's welcome, that's what it's become. And I think that's only going to keep going.
Yeah. And then you run at a pace you can talk at, which is aerobic, and then fantastic.
You could turn this into
we're not
because this will become the Marathon podcast.
No, we're not having that, mate.
If you let me.
Stop.
Yeah.
No. But it does work. I'm not just, it genuinely works. And, for me, it has created community for me. So it's brilliant in that sense. And as someone that I don't really drink anymore. Like, it's pretty much gone out of my life. So just because I don't really fancy it. And it's become a great way to connect with people in a way that's like fun, and you're outdoors, and it's something to do.
Well,
literally.
in London, we met a lot of people, but you meet them through work. So I actually don't have that many friends in London. I just had I thought I did, but actually they're just the people that I knew through work.
Yeah.
It's not that deep.
Yeah.
What was hardest about moving back to Lichfield was I was lonely. And a lot of people that have joined Mara are admittedly also lonely, because it's hard to meet people, especially when you remote work for a company that might not be based in Lichfield. Yeah. How do you meet people if you don't really like going to the pub?
Yeah.
And whoever goes to a pub and talks to someone that they don't know, hey, you
let's be friends.
You look cool.
Yeah.
No one does that. So genuinely, how else are you going to meet people?
Yeah.
It's just, it makes sense now. But when I first started doing these runs, I was on my own. I was just kind of like, I just believe people need this. So I'll keep going.
So obviously the full circle thing for you is that you're back where you grew up.
Yeah.
In the place where you used to believe, I can't really be creative and entrepreneurial
or be myself.
And then now I would say, obviously, as someone who knows you very well, you're absolutely flying. Like you're creating a brand, you've created a community, something that, is on its way to being sustainable as a business, really, that can support you, and you love it. And like, you've almost completely busted that myth that sort of 16-year-old George had.
True.
And you're fully living it, which is crazy.
And I'm the happiest, honestly, I've ever been. Easy. And I've probably earned less. I've got less. I don't know. People might perceive it as, I don't know, but I've got more. I've got way more.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Like, what do you think? What impact do you feel like living here has on your well-being?
I'm just healthier in every way. More balanced. We were saying how everyone in London is just work. I feel like I've got work and family and life, and that feels healthy now. And Hans taught me so much of how to, work is just work. It's not all of you, and that's helped me feel more balanced in myself. Being outdoors, drinking less, friendships, that just makes you feel, honestly, healthy textbook. Is the word.
You've got everything that, there are books like, what's that Johan Hari book, which is like Lost Connections. Yeah. Literally, like, depression and anxiety are caused by isolation and lack of community and whatever. And you're in a place now, and you've created that for yourself where you've got actually everything you need. Yeah.
And I want to give that to, honestly, everyone around me, or as many people as I can, because I just think I've seen so many different people, and I've been in different rooms and different boardrooms and lived in different places, and I've seen the healthiest, happiest people. One of the healthiest, happiest people I've ever seen is this guy called Sam Coxon, who lives in Lichfield, again, might be listening. And I came back from London, and I'd seen kind of like, I just couldn't find anyone that seemed happy. It's hard to find. Met him, and his skin was glowing, and he's like always outdoors in nature. Probably earns less than some of the millionaire bankers that I'd met, or the millionaire entrepreneurs in London that we'd met. But I was like, whatever you're doing, I'm just going to copy, because you look so healthy and so good.
Do you think how we're talking about Staffordshire is the truth? Like, are we in a bit of a bubble? Like, you know what I mean? When you drive around the streets, or because I feel like how you're describing your life in Staffordshire is very available to anyone that lives here. I really believe that. You know, in Staffordshire, I think because of the way it's a massive county, if you take Stoke into the consideration, I think Stoke-on-Trent is the city that's got the most access to green spaces in the country. Cool. because of how it's set up. You can kind of always get some green space basically. And you just drive through it. It's abundant. There's loads of space and it's green. And I really feel like it's a place where you can be very healthy and you can live in community. But there are certain areas that we all drive through that are deprived and, you know, that just feel downtrodden, that don't feel like they've got that. So yeah, what do you think about that? Do you feel like we're in a bit of a bubble, or is it just because of maybe how much the money we've got or what we earn, or are we privileged in that sense? Yeah, just curious.
I probably am privileged, you know, although my family, Roaster, Stoke, my family are from these places. At the end of the day, Lichfield is a nice place. If you look at all of Staffordshire, Lichfield's right up there. And you know, when you go down south or when we're around those London areas, it's nothing really. But in Staffordshire, I feel really grateful for it. But I think, I know people that have stepped more into nature or gone to Cannock Chase and realised that that's on their doorstep. Yeah. And it's filled them up and given them balance when, you know, there's other parts of their life that are more difficult, whether it's not having as much money or not being able to do other things, or work's really stressful or difficult. I know people that have been out in nature that's right on their doorstep, and they didn't know they could do that. So yeah, I think I feel privileged to have family, friends, good friends now, and to live in Lichfield. But I do think it's closer than I thought it was. To being healthier.
That's my perspective. Is like there are loads of big factors that we haven't got time to discuss. That's like, you know, career opportunities in Staffordshire, average wages, like, you know, just like general living standards that aren't as many opportunities as there are in some other places in the country. That's just fact. Like, if you want a job in finance, you're struggling in Staffordshire, basically. You want a job in the creative scene, you're still kind of struggling. You're going to get drawn to, there are opportunities more than people think, but you're kind of still going to feel a little bit like, oh, I can't have what I want here. So that's that. However, what I do feel like is that people here, and especially in Stoke, where I think this is really strong, focus more on what they've not got than what they have. And I really think there's a strong angst of like, oh, it's better in London. It's better in Manchester. Oh, look what they've got. And yes, in London and in Manchester, you can get like a billion different food options and sushi restaurants, and there's like 20 independents when you walk out the door. You can get a Deliveroo. True. However, there's a lot here that you can't get elsewhere, and there's a lot that we've got and that we can have, and you know, it can be an affordable life as well. That is great, and like there's loads to be proud of. So I think both are true. I think there are lots of like, you know, there's deprivation and there's real like issues and challenges that need to be faced, and there's a lot of good that if we actually lent into that and accepted that, we'd be proud of that. Because I feel like so much of the stuff that you've described, I feel like is really something to be proud of. You know, to live the lifestyle you live and many other people live, that's grounded with family, that's outdoors, that's kind of in a way simple. Yeah. Like that's something to be proud of. And I feel like often for us here in Stoke and in Staffordshire, we're not proud of that. We think that's boring, or we think that's not good enough. And again, that upsets me. Yeah. And, you know, I would like us to celebrate what we have more than kind of criticize what we've not got, basically.
Yeah. Well, I think to bring it back to Mara, I want to bring more events and community to more of Staffordshire. So if you listen to this and you live in Stoke, Mara's coming to Stoke very soon. So yeah, expect more. Yeah, I'll talk about that more.
We're going to plug that. We're going to plug that in a minute. I've got a few last questions before we start to wrap up. I suppose just like, it's not really on a tangent, but bringing it kind of back to money a little bit and work. Sitting here now as someone who's like, you are whether you like this label or not, you're an entrepreneur. It's all you've ever done. You've never really had a job, just like me. We've never had jobs other than KFC and was it Timpson's? Or, where were you at? Yeah. Ernest Jones or something?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Unless you fancy going back there, I don't know.
Jewelers.
I mean, I loved it at KFC, to be fair. I thought it was great. But I suppose the question is, and it's a bit of a pointy one, do you feel like you can be successful here? Do you feel like you can build, whether it's wealth or opportunities or a career? Like you're 32. It's not like I know we're joking because Keelan's 21 and it's made us feel old, but we're 32. It's not like we're in a way we're entering probably the prime or peak of our careers, and we would both hope to be sticking around here for a long time. How possible does that feel for you?
I don't know, because I just live on the edge a little bit, so I don't know if I'm the best. The best.
You're not the best role
case
model.
study, because I've always been used to uncertainty. Like I've never felt like anything I've done is. That's what drives me, is the fear that it's all going to go away next week. Honestly, that's basically what keeps me going. Is I've got to make things work and get to a certain place. So, I actually feel safer, to your point, here than I did in London. So I'm still entrepreneurial. I'm still going to create things. I'm still going to live on that edge, but I feel safer here because I've got better, deeper foundations.
Yeah.
I've got people around me that support me. Now, I didn't have that in London in the same way. The depth that I've got now feels stronger. So although everything I create is probably always very fragile until it really grows and builds, I've got better foundations, is the best way to put it. And I think that matters. I think that matters when you go through hard things in life. When I've had situations very recently where if I was going through that alone, it would have been much harder. So I think having community essentially is what it is. I think community is very close here in Staffordshire. Honestly, it's such a friendly, warm welcome. When I think of my grandma, Stokey, proper grown up, born in the centre of Stoke, how she would walk down the street in Roaster and would know everyone. She had community. It's
all anyone talks about. If you say to people, I was actually on a Reddit thread the other day, Reddit for Stoke-on-Trent, and it was actually quite a nice community on there. It wasn't your typical like, let's all just slam Stoke. It was pretty like genuine, like people just genuinely trying to help each other out. And someone posted it was basically just like, why do you live here? That was the thread. Why do you live here? He was like, everyone's quite negative about this area. Why do you live here? And basically, honestly, in no particular order, it was transport. It was ease of access. Literally, someone put junction 15 and 16. Like being able to get to other places. Green spaces.
Nice.
The people, which is what you've just said. The people was massive, and then oatcakes. Fair. Genuinely, oatcakes was just a strong. Everyone loves a Staffordshire oatcake. So, I feel it too. Like the people's a big part. And for me, if I was to like just riff off what I just asked you, I mean, last year I created this Masters in Entrepreneurship program with staffs that me and you have been a part of. And part of that was just meeting other entrepreneurs. And I met people as impressive, successful, that had built businesses, that had scaled to a level that, I'd met in London. Maybe not as many, and maybe I had to try a bit harder to find them, but they were definitely there. So that really inspired me. And then also for me, like as a creative, I'm just curious of like living in London. When I look back to starting Sanctus at 25 in London, I was insecure in myself, but also just in my environment. Like I was insecure. I was like frantic of like, oh God, it's loud, or like, I don't want to go back to my flat because it's not that great there. It was just insecure. I wasn't stable, and I feel really stable now. And I don't know yet, but I'm kind of like, what, as a creative, as an entrepreneurial person, what do I create from here? When I feel like this, when I feel comfortable, what do I make? Do I make a different kind of business? Do I make something that gives more to others, perhaps, where I don't think so much about what can I take? Yeah, I'm just interested. I don't know the answer to that yet, but
I think it's as simple as people aren't. So the people I know now aren't leaving. Honestly, that feeling when I lived in London or Manchester or at uni, it always felt transient because the people that I work with or live next to or lived or near I always just thought I might be moving on. They're probably moving on. So you don't spend the time. When you go on a run in London, no one looks at you because you're never going to see them again. The first time I went for a run in Staffordshire again, the first person that ran past said hello, and the next person said hello. I was like, what's going on? And it's because the next week you might see them. So it's worth investing.
Yeah.
And also the people that I've now got to know, you spend time developing the relationship because they've bought a house in Lichfield or Rugeley or up along they're not moving. So you spend the time, and then the depth that you have there of relationship is, for me, has made me feel more stable and safer. And I think that's right in front of us all here. So yeah.
Love it. Right, we're going to end. I've got 4 questions, 4 quick fire questions for the knot. I'm going to play with this as something that we might do at the end of everyone. So straight off the bat, I mean, anyway, we'll just go with it. Best coffee in Staffordshire.
Oh, I love, what's the one in the train station at Stoke?
Bod. Do you think that's the best coffee in Staffordshire?
Two reasons. The coffee's really good.
Wow.
And, oh my God, I've forgotten his name. That's
Kieran.
Well done. Kieran behind the bar.
Wow, mate.
Is phenomenal.
That's
the main
breaking
reason
news.
why I love him. He says hello every time.
No, that's breaking news.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Bod Stoke.
So Bod Stoke for best coffee. Best food?
I'm not a foodie, mate.
You're rubbish at this, aren't you?
I'm
it's
not
Nando's,
a foodie.
isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a foodie.
Good,
Honestly,
just give me something.
I don't have one. I don't think, on to the next guest.
Okay.
Genuinely, on to the next question, next guest. Food's not for me.
Best just thing to do. What do you most like doing?
That's easy. Can it chase? Easy. Just get on the chase.
Wow.
Get on the chase.
That's genuinely like if I gun to your head, it's like
easy.
you've got
It's
one
so
thing
quick.
you can do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Easy.
Run, walk.
Anything.
Yeah, just
Anything.
there. Love it.
Honestly.
I love it. I think that's it. I think we'll leave it. Okay, so we've got no food because you're rubbish with that. It'd be, I know you, mate.
It's a croissant with a coffee.
Yeah,
Coffee I can talk about all day. But
well, okay, bakery. Where would you get a croissant from?
I mean, Boar Street Bakery, Lichfield. There you go. I mean, that's more for the coffee though.
No,
Again,
but
there
Boar
is
Street,
food,
you can get
there is
chocolate
food.
knot there, and
Yeah, the chocolate knot in Boar Street's phenomenal.
So
There you go.
We've got Bud Coffee, a chocolate knot from Boar Street, and then we're getting out on Cannock Chase, and it's the perfect day.
It's a dream morning for me. That is.
Spot on. And then just before we wrap up, like you touched on it earlier, where do you want to point people to? Like, what's next? Is there anything that you'd love anyone listening or seeing this to follow or go and check out?
Yeah, I think follow me on Insta at George Bettany is probably the best place, or Mara at Mara Run Club or at Mara Running, mararrunclub.com, mararunning.com. Yeah, and the plan for this year is to do more in Staffordshire. So we're launching in Stoke. We're bringing a big track social event to Northwood Stadium in Stoke next month.
Yes.
That's going to be big.
Yeah.
We're doing a retreat in Cannock Chase next month as well. And yeah, we're just going to be putting on more events, more run clubs, more community stuff this year in Staffordshire. So yeah, follow us and get involved.
Love it. Well, thanks for being on today. This has been brilliant. I've really enjoyed this. It's been kind of surreal, like talking about this kind of stuff and doing it here, and it feels really right. So thanks for being the first guest on the Not Pod pilot. And yeah, the plan is to bring more conversations like this, basically I want to go deep on Stoke and Staffordshire. I want to hear people's perspectives. I'd like to talk about some of the stuff that I think matters and change people's perspective. Like, I think, I believe what you're saying is really valuable. And I hope there are people out there well, I know there are people out there that I think need to hear someone else's perspective. And especially when so much of the mainstream news about this region is so negative. Yeah, I want to bring something light and different, basically. And before we wrap up again, big shout out, Keelan. Thank you, mate.
Nice,
Keelan. Thanks to Dissident for hosting. And yeah, please check out Dissident Creative Agency. Hopefully you can tell by watching and listening to this that the quality of their content is excellent. So they are worth checking out. And final thing, if you want some regular good news about Stoke and Staffordshire in your inbox, sign up to The Knot. We send out no more than 2 emails a week. You get curated good news, things to do, spotlight, food recommendations direct in your inbox, and you'll be in good company with 1,000 other knotters on there. So that's on thenot.news, thenot.news. And we'll see you again soon. Cheers, everyone.